Previously, Al Jazeera sent an undercover reporter to expose how the Israel lobby works in Britain.
We still work with the embassy quite a lot.
How the embassy is backing pro-Israel youth groups.
The Israeli embassy in the UK gives money to the Union of Jewish Students.
At the center of events is the Israeli embassy's senior political officer.
It's good to leave those organizations independent, but we help them to actually...
To establish.
Yeah.
In part two of The Lobby, our undercover reporter gains even greater access within Britain's pro-Israel community. And along the way, Robin is groomed for a most unexpected mission. Following decades of violence, a new challenge has emerged to Israel's occupation of Palestinian lands, called BDS.
BDS is here to stay!
That's the global movement to boycott, divest, and impose sanctions on Israel and expose it as an apartheid state. The Israeli government has responded with a campaign to rebrand the country's image.
The reason we should fight BDS is because it's wrong. It's a moral outrage.
It's an operation run by the secretive Ministry of Strategic Affairs.
They recruit mainly former intelligence officers. Its main task is to counter BDS worldwide.
Using an undercover reporter, Al Jazeera's investigative unit exposes Israel's clandestine activities in London, a city that's become a major battleground.
BDS campaign in many ways germinated in Britain.
You'll meet the people working to challenge BDS at every level of British politics.
Israeli embassy.
Ah, okay, nice to meet you. We work really closely together, but like a lot of it's behind the scenes.
One of Israel's main targets is the Labour Party. For the first time, its leader is a champion of Palestinian civil rights.
They'd be very happy to see Jeremy Corbyn no longer leader of the Labour Party, for sure.
It's a covert action that penetrates the heart of Britain's democracy.
Can I give you some MPs that you suggest you will take down?
It is outrageous interference in British politics. It shouldn't be permitted.
It's a battle of ideas seeking to change not only how Israel's portrayed, but even how it is debated.
It's anti-Semitic. No, it's not. It's a trend.
Our undercover reporter has held meetings with the senior political officer of the Israeli embassy in London. Shai Massoud wants Robin to help set up a new youth movement allied to Britain's Labour Party. It will soon be time for the party's annual conference, and he's keen that Robin attends.
So we are going to be there a huge group. From the embassy, we're going to be like about 5 people. And they're going to be an MK from Israel and 8 young labor from Israel.
He suggests Robin liaise with the heads of other pro-Israel movements.
So Luke Erkas is the director of We Believe in Israel. He's a great guy.
So you know him?
Of course. So Luke is a great guy. Of course, I know. He's a great friend. We Believe in Israel is sitting together in the offices of but it's not the same organization. He's a great campaigner. He's one of the best in the inside, in all the party. Seriously, there's not a lot of people like him. And Luke asked him if he's keen to.
Can I mention your name towards Luke?
Yeah.
Shai also suggests that Robin contact Michael Rubin to take forward the idea of attracting pro-Israel young people to Labour.
Drop to Michael an email. And so I'm keen to do that. I just need your umbrella. And then you need a business card. That's it.
Can I claim that I have your support?
You can tell him that I suggested to contact him, but not my support because LFI is an independent organization. No one likes that someone is managing his organization. It's the first rule in politics.
The embassy helped us quite a lot, you know, when bad news stories come out about Israel, the embassy sends us information so we can sort of counter it, getting it directly from a horse's mouth, as it were. It's quite helpful. We work really closely together. But like, a lot of it's behind the scenes. We've got to be careful because I think there's some people which would be happy to be involved in a young LFI who wouldn't necessarily be happy if it was seen as an embassy thing. So I think Shai helping with background, yes. So I think definitely keeping Shai up to date and letting him know what we're doing. I think we just have to be careful for it not to be seen as a young Israeli embassy, like we want it to be distinguished by itself. So like, we do work really, really closely together. So it's just publicly, we sort of try and keep LFI as a separate identity to the embassy because being LFI allows us to reach out to people who wouldn't want to get involved in the embassy. Keeping it as a separate thing is actually best for everyone because ultimately we've got the same end goal of getting more young people to be pro-Israel and understand the conflict. So it's just how you do it.
It's time for members of the Labour Party to travel to their annual conference in Liverpool. Robin sits with the Israeli delegation. Shai announces plans to establish another organization in Britain, this time with links to AIPAC, America's powerful pro-Israel lobby.
I'm arranging so we're establishing a new group. It's called the City Friends of Israel. And basically we're doing like a small lunch with a congressman from America. I'm doing it with AIPAC.
Our investigation has already established this Israeli diplomat's links to numerous political groups in Britain, including the parliamentary lobby group, the Labour Friends of Israel, or LFI. At the conference, Shai introduces our undercover reporter to LFI members at their stall.
Hi, nice to meet you.
The Israeli diplomat advises the chair of the LFI about Robin's new role within her organization.
So you just met.
Yeah,
Robin is volunteering to LFI as well.
Oh, yeah?
And he's doing trying to get the young people.
Excellent.
He's trying to arrange another investigation, maybe. That's a young activist of LFI.
They discuss paying for influential MPs to take a government-run tour of Israel.
What happened with the names that we put into the embassy, Shai?
And just now got the money. It's more than £1 million. It's a lot of money. And then and now I got the money. So from Israel. So it's not physical. Yeah, it's improvement. And then
I didn't think you had it in your bag.
The government of Israel has already budget allocated to various ministries which can use it as they like to bring foreign delegations to Israel. It's part of the information campaign, you may call it propaganda campaign.
The deputy Israeli ambassador to the UK arrives at the stall and is introduced to our undercover reporter.
This is Robin. He's
Lovely to meet you.
volunteering now in the LFI to bring young people to do young LFI.
And he's a young baby as well.
And young Fagan as well.
I hope that doesn't mean you're getting rid of us older ones.
Oh, no, it's not older baby.
Would you like to?
Oh, sorry.
Shai networked with pro-Israel labor activists. He offered assistance to the Jewish Leadership Council, an influential umbrella group of Jewish organizations in Britain.
And he told me that there is a couple of things that you asked Jill, us to arrange.
So
they wrote so I did to them a draft schedule.
My understanding is it was just more of an offer from us to them to help facilitate anything they need with some suggestions of what to do. But I don't know anything more than that at this point.
They were amazing. They basically said, Shai, do whatever you want to do.
That's good.
And I love when people can do that.
While in Liverpool, Shai's confidence in Robin grows. The Israeli diplomat even goes so far as to introduce him as the chairman of the Young Labor Friends of Israel.
It's Young LFI, chairman. Okay, nice to meet you.
Establishing now the LFI part of the youngsters.
Young LFI.
Yeah, good. And Shai is the head of the delegation.
Hi, Ruben, Karen. Nice to meet you.
And it's establishing now Young LFI.
Oh, you're heading up the Young LFI. Brilliant.
Robin learns that pro-Israel activists are planning to attend a meeting organized by the Labor Friends of Palestine and the Middle East, the LFP-ME. On the way, he spots Luke Akehurst, the prominent pro-Israel operative within Labor, who Shai had told Robin to contact.
Excuse me, Mr. Akehurst. Hi, I'm Robin, the guy setting up the Young LFI.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, he was quite vociferous. Yeah, just wanted to, we have like little progress now. We have the first signing up, 22 people on the mailing list. Yeah, excellent. Are you going to any events?
To the LFPME thing? Yes, I am, yeah, because I need to take notes on it.
Oh, you're going to write something?
No, just for internal provide.
It becomes clear that as well as Akehurst, other pro-Israel activists will be discreetly recording the event.
There's the Labour Friends of Palestine East 1 and 230, which I'll be going to. So I need to charge my phone up so I can get some more recordings.
Ahead of the Palestine event, one member of the Israeli delegation contemplates wearing a T-shirt promoting Israel.
That's great.
She's dying for some action. Yes, it's good.
I wouldn't if I were you.
You wouldn't if you were me.
Well, I mean, Akehurst is going to write a report anyway.
These are our spies.
Oh, right.
Which is why you can't wear that T-shirt, because then everyone...
Yeah, when people shout at you.
Well, you know, I was an intelligence officer, so...
Oh.
For years. I can get the intel for you, no worries.
While the Palestine event passed without incident, controversy did follow a private training session organized by the Jewish labor movement.
My name's Mike Katz. I'm one of the White National Vice Chairs of the Jewish Labour Movement.
Mike Katz works under Jeremy Newmark, the chairman of the Jewish labor movement. Newmark recently appointed Ella Rose as the JLM's new director.
Of today's session is confronting anti-Semitism and engaging Jewish voters.
The training session was arranged following allegations of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party. It became a highly publicized matter for Jeremy Corbyn after an incident involving the former mayor of London.
A Nazi apologist. A Nazi apologist. You're a disgusting Nazi apologist, Livingstone.
A barrister, Shami Chakrabarti, launched an inquiry and concluded that despite an occasionally toxic atmosphere, anti-Semitism was not endemic within the party.
Anti-Semitism as a phenomenon across the world. Here's some examples. 1992, Buenos Aires, Israeli embassy, 29 killed, 242 injured. 2012, the Toulouse school attack, 4 killed. Obviously, 2014, shortly after the awful attack in the supermarket in Paris.
The private JLM training session was about to have very public consequences for one attendee.
At the start, it seemed relatively relaxed. It was simply a training session. And I think some of us had gone along there with the idea that it was kind of strange, because in some ways this was going against what Shami Chakrabarti had actually advised. So we wanted to see what was going on.
The CSC, the Community Security Trust, they recorded 557 anti-Semitic incidents across the UK in the first 6 months of 2016. That is an 11% increase in the period in 2014. 2014 was the most anti-Semitic year on record.
One member of the audience challenges how the list was drawn up.
I'm wondering if I'm now going on that list, because my MP actually sent a letter to Jeremy Corbyn asking him to bar me from the rally in Ramsgate because I was an example of anti-Semitism, because his office enjoyed through my Facebook page and found an article that I'd shared by Norman Finkelstein.
Finkelstein wrote, in what many considered a humorous post, that one way to deal with the occupation of Palestinian land was to move Israel to the United States.
In the past, anti-Semitism was hating Jews for being Jews. Now Israel tries to extend it to say that this is any criticism about what Jews are doing is also anti-Semitism. If you question the right of Israel to be a Jewish state, then you are not different from these classical anti-Semites.
This goes back to the training session. They do this by saying most Jews relate to Israel as being an important part of their identity.
What you need to do is recognise that Israel is an integral part of the vast majority of Jewish communities and identity.
Therefore, if you attack Israel, you are attacking their identity.
You've got to create a welcome debate that is fair. I think you need to be careful with your language and about your references to the Holocaust and what you might say to actually delegitimise that right of Israel, that basic right of Israel as a country to exist. That is not appropriate. Zionism, Zion, not a term of Jews, and as in any Labour Party appropriate.
Zionism is the political ideology that Israel has the right to exist as an exclusively Jewish homeland in historic Palestine.
I'm Jewish, and I don't agree with the concept of the Jewish state because it gives me the right to live in Israel, whereas a Palestinian who's been displaced has less a right than me. So can you just think that's not appropriate? Are you really saying it's not appropriate for us to have a political discussion?
The Jews of Europe had the right to look for a safe haven. There's no doubt about it. When they were persecuted by anti-Semitic governments and movements, and definitely the Jews had to save themselves when this anti-Semitism has turned into the Nazi machine of destruction and genocide. The question is, do people who were persecuted in Europe have the right to displace people of another place? Can the abused become an abuser?
You are saying effectively that Zionism, is not open to debate as a concept, then that is really worrying. Anti-Semitism, like any form of racism, is deplorable. And my feeling about how to tackle this is for Jews to be standing boldly and squarely alongside our black comrades, our Muslim comrades, who are much more at the moment the target of racism than people at the moment we are.
As well as our undercover reporter, someone else was secretly recording the debate.
I'm laughing because by the time the row actually broke out, I was on my way home. I mean, none of us thought anything about this training session. I was in the car and suddenly I started to get these tweets coming through to me and these phone calls from the BBC.
A secretly recorded clip was leaked to a news outlet.
What was actually leaked were certain little segments that would be as controversial as possible.
In terms of Holocaust Day, I would also like to say, wouldn't it be wonderful if Holocaust Day was open to all people who've experienced Holocaust? And if the Jews...
As soon as I spoke, if you like, there was a ripple in the room. And I was just constantly interrupted.
Well, actually, in practice, it's not actually circulated and advertised.
I'm not just Jewish, I am black. And my ancestry is of African enslavement. Only this year, I spoke at Slavery Remembrance Day, and I spoke to a crowd in Trafalgar Square about the African Holocaust, and that is what we call it. You can disagree with me as to whether I should call that a Holocaust, but it's not anti-Semitic for me to call what happened to African people in the diaspora a Holocaust.
And I was seeking for information
And I still haven't heard a definition of anti-Semitism that I can work with.
How it was reported and how it was tweeted was I was basically saying, I can't find anywhere a definition of anti-Semitism to work with. That's total nonsense. I'm an anti-racist trainer. I've been an anti-racist trainer for 40 years. I've been fighting fascists and anti-Semites on the streets for decades.
The incident caused uproar in the British media. The Board of Deputies of British Jews called Walker an unapologetic Jew baiter. Walker was suspended from the Labour Party pending an investigation. Shortly afterwards, Robin meets the embassy's senior political officer.
What do you think of that woman, Jackie Walker?
Yeah, she's problematic.
What can I do?
Do not let it go.
And report every time she...
Not just horrified.
Yeah.
Do not let it go. That's
In recent years, there is a growing tendency within the government to smear people who are anti-Israeli or anti-Zionist also to be anti-Semite. But not all anti-Israelis and anti-Zionists are anti-Semite. On the contrary.
If they accuse anybody of anti-Semitism, it's basically as bad as kind of accusing somebody of being a paedophile or a murderer, you know, and it's really hard to come back from that.
All right, have a good day.
Meanwhile, our undercover reporter spots Ella Rose across the road. News had broken of Ella's former job at the Israeli embassy, which had not been widely known. She's in tears because of what she considers anti-Semitic harassment.
You're right.
It's been a tough week. Tough week.
Sorry to hear that.
It's all right. Essentially, Electronic Intifada released that I worked at the embassy before JLM, and Jackie Walker's been slamming me online all week, and I just had to stand in front of her. It was really hard. It was really hard. It's over. I'm gonna go run a rally, so you. You. The anti-Semite lot of them.
Oh my God.
When our undercover reporter next met Ella, she had regained her composure.
I saw Jackie Walker on Saturday and thought, you know what, I can take her. She's like 5'2" and tiny. That's why I can take Jackie Walker. Charles McGrath training. Yeah, I'm not bad. If it came to it, I would win. That's all I really care about.
Oh my gosh. Well, that says it all. I mean, you know, I don't even speak about people like that in that way, that you would take somebody, you would take somebody out. And she's speaking about another Jewish Labour member in this way. I think that's breathtaking. It's absolutely breathtaking. I'm just stunned.
The report that Ella worked at the Israeli embassy had appeared in the Electronic Intifada, a pro-Palestinian news website.
Ella Rose had been working for a year at the Israeli embassy in London, something that wasn't widely known at all, that had been, as far as I could ascertain, had been essentially covered up.
Ah, Asa Winstanley! He was the one that wrote the douchey things about me. He's in bed.
They know they can't win when the debates are open, so they have to do these things behind closed doors. So when I'm outing her as an officer at the Israeli embassy and she didn't want that to be publicly known, yeah, she's not going to like that. She's going to lash out.
Look, at the end of the day, these people are sad tosses. Completely pathetic. And leave them in their corner where they belong. I'm very over them and their existence. As far as I'm concerned, they can go down a hole.
She's worked for the Israeli state. The Israeli state talks about a war against organizations like us. It is a threatening thing to hear about, absolutely.
What we need to have is some investigation of this from the Labour Party, and I will be making a formal complaint against both Ella Rose and the Jewish Labour movement.
Happens. people are going to hate me no matter what, and they're always going to find something. It was all very anti-Semitic, to be honest. I'm a Zionist, too, thank God.
In part 3, controversy over anti-Semitism continues at the Labour conference.
You know, classic anti-Semitic.
And a warning from the Israeli ambassador to pro-Israel supporters in Britain.
The fashion is, if you were on the left today, you are probably very hostile to Israel, if not anti-Semitic.